There will be no real non-controlled currency in the world.
We're coming for you, banks.
It's an exciting time to be involved in Bitcoin Cash at the moment.
During that whole war, Lightning versus big blocks, like were we the bad guys? Were we the ones that weren't listening?
Fundamentally, we believe in markets, transparency, and tokenization.
Come on, you gotta come stronger than that, you know, like...
Hello and welcome back to the Bitcoin Cash podcast, following Bitcoin Cash on its rise to global reserve currency. This is episode number 89, Drivechain debate featuring Paul Sztorc. Today is Sunday, the 6th of August, 2023. I'm your host, Jeremy. Jet is doing the producing, same as always. And usually we start with a guest intro, but instead today it's a very special day because we've just passed the 6 years since the BTC BCH split, what is Independence Day or BCH Day in the Bitcoin Cash community, and seems also to have been adopted as this kind of Independence Day in the BTC community. So they've kind of in reaction caught onto this trend. It's very ironic to have that same holiday marked by both communities kind of for the same but inverse reasons. Anyway, it's obviously great for the Bitcoin Cash community to have made it 6 years on our own on the peer-to-peer cash mission. So we've got a video here from Pantera, who made a special celebratory video that I particularly enjoyed. So Jet, let's line that up. All right, there we have it. Some triumphant Bitcoin Cash vibes. Paul, did you celebrate the first? Maybe for the opposite reason? I don't know.
Well, not really. Although ironically, I sent a snarky tweet about how in the BTC community, we celebrate this as the day that we increase the block size limit from 1 megabyte to 4 megabytes, which is something that is probably still misunderstood by the majority of the BTC community, even 6 years later. Because the SegWit upgrade that activated on August 1st increased the BTC the node requirements by up to 4x, and the whole dispute was about like not doing that. So
Yes, that's right. But it was also a bit of a mess, really, because at the time it wasn't sold as a block size increase. It was sold as this kind of workaround hack, which is kind of what it was. And it was also said like, this will buy us some time. This kind of expands the limits a little bit, but not too much. And now it's come into vogue to say that it's a 4 megabyte block size increase. But that's not even really that true, because if you can only get the full 4 megs if you're having inscriptions or, you know, a lot of stuff in the witness data. If you're just doing transactions, it's more like 1.7 to 2.2.
2.3 or so. I remember being sold to something like that, but I don't think most people understood what was being sold. So it didn't even matter. People were so confused. To this day, people think like it's like more efficient packing of transactions into blocks or something.
Right. Exactly. And that's been one of the greatest lessons in hindsight for me of this entire thing, was that at the time I believed very, very confidently that Bitcoin Cash would kind of come out on top like very quickly and very fast, because I felt like it's obvious. Like I understood sort of the technical elements and this and that, and I thought it was really obvious that the Lightning Network wouldn't work and all this stuff. So I was just like, this is obvious. But what I've learned as a result of that, and also as a result of just everything else in life, coronavirus, a classic example, like that's completely separate, but it's the same thing, which is that the diversity of human opinion and perspective is so much broader than it's really possible to fathom. You know, there's so many ideas that you think, how could anybody possibly have this opinion?
I thought,
and then you find someone who does.
There's a lot of a conformity, of course. So also, most people just say, well, I have my own private belief. And then they say, is this belief really match the people around me? And if they say this belief is very different, most people will say, oh, I must have gotten something wrong. I don't want, it's more important to get along with my wife, my friends, my whatever community. So people say, I privately feel X, but we all keep 2 sets of books. And then we say, I always believed Y. And then when everyone comes around to X later, everyone always says, well, yeah, I always believed X, but
just didn't say it.
Just didn't say it. So yeah, the way that people form beliefs and the way they spread is not ideal. Until
I was watching
prediction market revolution.
Yes,
truly. You got to fix all of that.
Yes,
eventually.
Yes. I'm looking forward to that, and I agree. We can actually touch on that. I was watching a video which was talking about this part of psychology, and you know that experiment where they have the 3 lines that are the
Asch conformity experiment. Yes,
exactly.
Big experiment.
Right.
Yeah. And you know, and you see that people like in the video, people like wring their hands. They're uncomfortable, but they answer the wrong answer.
Yes.
So it's not. It's like however you want to read into it is kind of like you're anyone's guess, because you can say when push comes to shove, most people will conform and you cannot rely on it. But you can also look at the video and you could say, well, these people don't really believe. They know that one answer is right, but something happens to them and they just decide, I don't want to be unpopular in this room. People just like to be popular. I mean, you know, it's kind of quaint if you really think about it.
But it's also like self-preservation. It's like in a scenario where you were in a dangerous situation, you should just follow the crowd and not, you know, the nail that sticks out gets hammered down. That kind of an idea.
People think if I do this, I'm going to be on the totem pole of life, the status hierarchy of life that we all obsess about and we care about constantly. Who is liked more than who? You know, you think, well, every action I take, I'm either going to become more popular or less popular. People they say whatever it is that makes me more popular, even if it's a bald lie, they just think that's what I have to do.
But you can only get so far. It's like a hack, because you can only get so far saying what everybody else is saying. That can get you like off the bottom. It has a strong floor, but it doesn't have a very high ceiling, because to actually get out of that, you have to be non-conformist and then be later proved right, and then everybody else goes, oh, look at this, you know, you slowly get like
the
clout that way, right?
Is the prediction market with private cryptocurrency, because your situation is you say you say C or whatever the line is that's clearly wrong. You go home and in the privacy of your own home, you bet on the one that you know it will be.
Yes.
And then later on, you're proved right. You make a ton of money. You're getting more and more anonymous cash the whole time. And then you secretly start doing nice things for your friends and family. You know, you buy people a car. You fund a charity. So that is the trick is actually to have like this complicated strategy involving like secretly making money with the prediction market and then turning money into fame, throwing parties and things. That completes the circuit and makes the whole world rational again. But right now it's not, of course. We evolved, we evolved in a world where there was like tribes, small tribes, simple rules that had to be followed because they were like the only known way of like making fire, making clothes, getting food, surviving the seasons.
Yeah.
So most stories are like a kind of like an avatar shaped story where it's like guy shows up, or even like Devil Wears Prada or something. Someone shows up, there's a new world, the hero's journey, they're plunged into this strange world. They learn the rules of the new world. Sometimes they either, like in Devil Wears Prada, she becomes actually very good at picking out the clothes at the end. And in Avatar, he not only joins the tribe, but then he conquers the giant eagle thing, the giant red thing,
Yeah.
And then so you either become fully conform, or you defect in a way that like
elevates
the conformity, because in Avatar there were like 5 or 6 people that had done that before, like the ancestral hero or something. So like that is actually the paradigm. All human knowledge, I think, is actually originates in this paradigm of you join the tribe, you learn the tribe's rules, and you conform, and you get ahead. You lead the tribe to greatness on its own terms. The modern world of science, where it's like a whole world around us is changing very rapidly. The tribal world stuff would not change for like 20, 30,000 years, many generations. So within a generation, nothing would change. But in the modern world, there's lots of change. And so we do need people, entrepreneur style people, like kind of like autistic, innovator, or weirdo people,
Yeah, right. You need
this
them
is a brand new thing. People are not set up for it. Peter Thiel has a quote, something along the lines of like, he flips the question. He says, why are there so many like autistic founders or like billionaires or something? He's just like, he thinks like anyone could do it, but only the autistic people can like, they're not drawn into that. Like their friends are going to go to whatever, MLB game or NFL game. Like they're the only people who could unplug and say like 800,000 people are going to die if we don't finish this medical technology like 4 months earlier. Like, and you have to be like robotic to survive the process. There's so much pressure to just do something more conventional, that blends in.
Yeah, I heard something recently about the one thing that it links all the most successful people, that they did this sort of personality survey or something. And one of the things they found, there was a couple of things, but one of them was like being super stubborn. And then another one was also being, having a strong sense of like insecurity, in the way of insufficiency is the word. Like you had to feel like, if I don't do this, there's no other option. Like this has to fly, because if they can't, I'm not good enough. And maybe even once you get to be the best in the world at basketball or whatever, you still feel like, but am I still not good enough? And that was what drives that obsessive practice and training. For
something to be truly innovative, there has to be a reason why the idea never made it before.
Yes.
So you have an idea, you think the world would be better with prediction markets or whatever. Now you have to think, well, why am I so lucky? Like, I'm the first one to think of this? That can't quite be it. I must be the only one who can think of it, who has enough free time to do it. Or I'm the only one to think of it who, like, is willing to leave, like, the McKinsey job or the Google engineering job, like an easy job that I would do very well. And so it's part of, like, why every time an idea first makes it through the gauntlet, it needs some kind of special, unique combination of steps to like shepherd it through all the challenges.
Yeah.
And the challenges are like, why didn't anyone else think of this idea? Or why does the idea because you see what I mean? The low-hanging fruit have all been taken. So it's like, for an idea to make it now, it has to be an idea where, for some reason, there's barriers, and it's like how to jump every barrier to actually make it through. Maybe I'm mistaken about this idea being good.
Well, I don't know if there's
maybe
low-hanging fruit or like, I think there's still sort of, in some sense, there's more low-hanging fruit
I
than
agree with
ever,
that. But
because we're in a more complex world, right?
Yeah, I actually agree that there's more low-hanging fruit, and I agree that progress is actually accelerating. So in that sense, absolute progress is getting easier over time. But you know what I mean? What I mean is, like, you can't, fire is taken. So
Yes.
it's done, writing is done, it's been done. Music, that one.
The scales, whatever. The foundations are
our signature,
pretty specialized. If once you're in the rabbit hole of
claim an idea, it's so now it's too late. You got to think of a new one. You have to be genuinely creative and think of a new idea. Of course, yeah, most people get their ideas from they get their ideas from other people, as we already discussed. They're conformists. So
yes.
So a lot of people think there are no new ideas because to them there are not. They just get all of their ideas. They get 100% of the ideas from everyone else, and the only creativity in their brain is, how can I figure out what the tribe's rules are as quickly as possible? And they're trying to figure out, like, how do I conform? So all their creativity is directed in a somewhat ironic sense. And
pursuit of conformity. Yeah.
99% of people actually have 99% of their attention directed in this way, and it's very rare. It's very rare to have truly creative people.
All right, so you're a creative person. You came up with Drivechain. What was your process for that?
Well, it's somewhat ironic that I think it was a difference of perspective, where my view was, we have these two groups of people, large blockers, small blockers, who are very convinced that they are correct.
Yes.
And my view was, which was sometimes, to me, it's straightforward, but apparently it's pretty novel. I was along the lines of, can we do something where both groups get what they want? Because it's going to be kind of hard to convince one group that they're wrong, and the other group, the other group is going to take it for granted that they're right. But you have to have one group fold, and I kind of took a look at that. It had been going on for years. It really seemed like there was some merit to trying both. And this is the way most things actually work. Like, the way most things work is, you enter a town, someone opens a new Chinese food restaurant. It's not like a prison that only serves Chinese food, you know what I mean? And it switches from Chinese to Italian or something. It's like, in the real world, the entrepreneurs open a place, and then the user you can go there every day, or you can go there never, or you can switch back and forth.
Yes.
And so I was thinking more along these lines. I was like, how can we get the large block option? And part of my thought process was that this had kind of already been done, because Adam Back had actually come up with, and I think Jonathan Lau or someone had come up with this mandatory soft fork extension block.
Yes.
And so this idea was already out there. It had some flaws, and I corrected some of these flaws, I thought. The sidechain idea was also out there. The idea of the two-way peg, that was from like December 2013 or something. So the ideas were actually already out there, and I just kind of improved them. I think I optimized them. I don't think you can beat my design, but certainly that would be great if someone did. I just think people don't understand what all the pieces are doing there for when they change these pieces, and the pieces they're just fine the way they are. And they actually, things that people think are like a con or a drawback are actually irrelevant, and they're great. And people mostly like those things. So.
Yeah, so for the listeners, we're not going to go all in the details of how Drivechains work, because honestly, my listeners are pretty smart, and I think most of them already know, or they can do the background reading. But the idea is essentially that you would be able to have the mining from Bitcoin, all the SHA-256 miners could co-sign blocks, so that over a 6-month period, if 3 months worth of blocks got signed, then you would be able to withdraw coins out of a side chain. So you can make an infinite number of side chains, essentially, where you can have a completely different blockchain. So it could be like a copy of Monero or a copy of Ethereum or something completely new. People could send their coins in, sort of like we had with Smart BCH recently for the Bitcoin Cash people. You put your coins in there, and then whatever goes on over there, the main chain is completely unaffected, at least once the initial change is in, which would be possible as a soft fork critically for trying to force this over the line on BTC. And then there's this 6-month period of getting the coins out, right? And the reason that's slow is basically so that there's some security, and if somebody tries to fraud, you have loads of time to call them out and all the miners to agree like this is not going to work and all that. It's all going to go down a disaster. So you had this idea and you put it out there in 2015. And the funny thing is that it wasn't even that. It's become more controversial over time instead of less.
At the time, people thought this was great.
Yes.
It made it to it was pinned on r/Bitcoin.
Yes.
It was sometimes presented as an alternative to hard forking to increase the block size, which I think is that's accurate. Like I think it is back. There's lots to say, and it's hard to know in which direction to go. But the block size dispute is only one problem among many that this idea would solve.
Yes.
So there was also like Ethereum had just been like invented. Some people wanted more privacy, and yet the privacy often conflicted with the ability to audit the 21 million coin limit. And this is like, can we ever have our cake and eat it too? But with this idea, you could, because you deposit whatever, like 17,000 coins into this private zone. It would be too private there to see how many coins there are, but on L1, you see how many coins are in the sidechain. So the bigger problem really was the block size dispute was really just a tiny tip of the iceberg for me. And I thought, this is an easy problem to solve. The real problem is actually sometimes people disagree over what the software should do, and we don't have competition among. What we should have is lots of developers, each making basically no money, Malthusian subsistence wage, and they should be like miners where they compete. They have no political influence. And if you don't like what one chain is doing, it's open source, you fork the chain, you just change the parameter to something else. You think 8's the wrong block size, change it to 16 or change it to 0.2 or change it to whatever, 0, whatever you want. And you just launch it. And then if you can attract, at first a tiny little bit from the miners to turn it on, and then you can attract users and people pay transaction fees. That to me is like the starting a new restaurant thing. So the world without sidechains is kind of like an economy with no entrepreneurship, where you have everyone must have permits for everything, and the permits are never given out. Yes. So you have ability to launch the competing restaurant. But in the sidechain world,
that became altcoins,
Yes.
Even though it didn't have to be, but it did. And that's where we're at now.
The problem. Yes.
Yes.
And this is, I think, also the problem with Bitcoin Cash, which I assume we'll get to.
Yes.
Because the problem with Bitcoin Cash is, of course, it's just, the heart of my take on the matter is that there's two separate things that are glued together.
Yes.
One is the concept of a large block L1 is a good thing.
Yes.
And then the rest is the second, like the implementation details, the exact timing, the date, the name, strategy, everything, all that other stuff.
Yeah. So we'll get to some of the specifics of that. But one of the things I wanted to get your take on with the whole altcoin stuff, which I think you're actually in favor of as an innovator, but you also everything needs to be in Bitcoin. Yeah.
It's not good form of innovation. So I'm a pro innovation, but the altcoin is like, it's like a country where you need permits for everything. And as a result, everything is illegal. And as a result, you don't live in a world where you can take someone to court, or you can call the police if they just steal from you. And you can see this world actually kind of sucks from a property rights, economics point of view, microeconomics point of view, political science point of view. This is a world where people they have a greatly reduced ability. So it's like everything's black market. Everything is like black market drugs, black market food, black market restaurant. It's all speakeasies. Everything's and the much better thing to do is live in a world where, you have entrepreneurship is considered not only legal, but a good thing. I mean, now it's almost begrudgingly tolerated in America even to this. It's very interesting that America is probably the most pro-business country, but it's not very pro-business. It's very difficult to survive the regulation and the taxes, which only punish the winners.
Yes.
And then if you're an entrepreneur and you fail, it's not like you get negative tax. Like you get like a giant check back. It's like another thing though is that in America, even we have this idea of rugged individualism and entrepreneurship. And like in America, what's the phrase about like Americans invented the phrase making money or something like this stuff?
Something like that.
Still, it's very stigmatized to be a successful entrepreneur. It's seen as a very weird thing to do.
I don't know. Shark Tank's super popular.
Yeah, I think America is much better than most other countries, but it's still you're still like alienated. You're not like it's like if you could be a rock star or you could be like Mark Zuckerberg or something. He's seen as weird, and the guitar soloist is seen as really great.
That's cool. Yeah.
So that's what I'm getting at. Is you want a world where all that stuff is encouraged. Instead, it's the altcoin world is not. The altcoin world, it ships with a competing. It's like as if you had to. You're at one restaurant, and then someone opens a Chinese restaurant. They only speak Chinese there, and they only take Chinese RMB. Or they only now. Well, you have a Chinese food option, but it's very expensive. There's a huge distance. There's a huge,
opportunity like switching cost. Yeah,
switching costs. Yes, enormous. And in the money, the network effects are so important. It's like it's like switching language or switching, from the QWERTY keyboard to like some keyboard that's shaped like a spiral or something. You're like, people don't want to do that,
but
they don't have to.
The problem with the restaurants, just like the problem in Bitcoin, was it was nothing to do with the actual engineering of can we put up a restaurant? Yeah, everybody knows that. Just like, can we raise the block size? Is it going to immediately centralize all the nodes? Like, no, of course it wasn't. To a certain degree, right? There might be a certain extent, like how BSV has gone, where it's just turned into a disaster, right? But a small increase it was not even controversial on a technical ground, or at least anybody who disputed on that ground was being disingenuous. The problem was all politics, right? And that's kind of where things are still gridlocked today.
I think it's partly correct. I mean, I think definitely some people fought over what is the right number?
Yes.
It was its own conversation. I think a lot of people were thinking like if we raise it now, it would be like the US debt ceiling and it will just raise every time. And it's very easy to hit. It's easy to just hit it on a random Tuesday. Then we could just buy up all the space to hit it on a random Tuesday. And so they thought, well, this isn't in order to be a limit, it has to be like a real limit, like the debt ceiling, which is not a real limit.
Of course. So then in that world, it's in the most roundabout kind of way, it has come about sort of somewhat quite fortuitously, to be honest, even though the Bitcoin Cash side has paid a huge price for it. But we have got the two versions of Bitcoin, and we've got the small block one and we've got the large block one. We've even got a couple of other alternatives that had their own idea. But by and large, I mean, if BCH as a minority fork is struggling, like being a minority of a minority is even worse, right?
Yeah.
So we've got those two options now. And what's your reflection on how things have sort of played out to this point? Has BCH done better than you thought, worse than you thought? Some good, some bad.
I thought it wouldn't do. I thought it had, like the odds of success are like, you had like some chance of success early on. And then I think that it plummets, and we could get into why. And this is my
yeah, we can. Yeah.
And I think, again, it has two ideas that are separated, which is like, it's kind of like the large block idea is one issue, and then there's like what's the best for people who currently own BCH right now. So the large block idea you can see as like I see it as a kind of like an election, because teamwork is so important. And when you have consensus software, when you have money, you have Metcalfe's law, you have network effects.
Yeah.
So the way I see it is like, you want an election because you want control over the country. And if you lose, if you don't win, what your best option is to just admit defeat and then say we'll be back in 4 years.
Yes.
You guys are going to regret. You guys, listen, you made your decision, and we are team players, so we will go along with it. We will go along with small blockism for another 4 years, but we'll be back. and you guys are going to see that this is a mistake. And here's our predictions. We predict Lightning Network won't really work. It won't be popular. It will be custodial. We predict that bandwidth speeds and everything, hard disk space will continue to plummet. We predict that we will be able to produce a version of the software that is very high performance to the fact that it actually can do 8 megabyte blocks in less time than Bitcoin Core takes 1 megabyte. So you say that, that's what we believe, but we accept that we did not win. And then you see, this is kind of tough because at any given moment, this is like stabbing the BCH people who are the loyal supporters in the back. So this is a tension between these two ideas, which is like people who own BCH UTXOs, of course, hate this like concept.
Well, I don't know. I'm open to hearing your take of how things should. I mean, of course, what I'm going to say is that's a nice like story, but I think the problem is that in the real world, the way it went down showed that kind of that wouldn't have worked, because if the BCH people had all said, okay, yeah, we'll just play along and we'll go along, well, we could easily be in this same situation where there sort of was no other election. It was just, okay, history's been written and that's the end of the story. And then you never get another election. You never get.
I think you force the people who want change would force the issue again. They'd say, we'll do a new.
Wouldn't you be in an even worse position now? Wouldn't it be like everybody, because people were joining the community at a time when censorship was so high, and it still is, honestly, in the BTC community. You still can't post on our Bitcoin about altcoins, still can't post on Bitcoin Talk. There's still all this conformist bullshit against, different narratives and so on and so forth. So fighting through that is just impossible. How are you going to run?
I have a different strategy for doing that, which was, again, I think this is my own opinion, which may be wrong. And of course, I have many weird niche opinions, and I like it that way. Again, I feel like I'm a kind of a creative person. So I feel like maybe I throw out an idea that's not right, but I try to make this like a different idea than most people will give you, So I mean, that's my hope. And so my idea is that part of what happened was that a lot of the people who were influential in large blockism, Bitcoin Cash, a lot of them were like anarchists and stuff, and people who didn't really believe in politics at all. Like they just didn't even think this. Like if you went into the library, the Dewey Decimal, like they don't even think like this branch of science is real, because it's legitimate. But it is it is real. So that's like this is just my point of view. Is that again, to deal with the censorship question specifically, I would have done a different strategy that involved network effects and like game theory and like politics, where I would have said r/BTC is going to be an exact mirror of our Bitcoin.
Okay.
But it will not have censorship.
Right.
Now you see, because humans are inherently political people. So what humans want is they don't want to get left out of the news. So they want to make sure they see the news that other people in their community are getting.
Yes.
And then you see, this is a problem if they go to BTC and it's a completely different thing, and it's like CNN versus Fox News.
Yes.
Now they know they're missing out on, they know the communities have split more. So again, in general, my strategy, which, it may be that this, as you say, my strategy may have gone even worse. But my take on all these issues is that try to defend the fact that the network effects are real. The network effects are very strong, and just kind of like try a couple things, see if you can cleave off. You got to cleave off 51% somehow. So if it doesn't, try something that doesn't work, then just kill that thing and live to fight another day. I mean, how do you think it's gone, given that the BCH, it seems like the price slides, which I think is relevant.
Yeah.
It's not good to be on CoinMarketCap. It's very stigmatizing.
Yeah, no, it is.
Two people fighting over the same name. So maybe I can flip the question and say, don't you think about, like, isn't this like the number one, number two, or number three thing that people in Bitcoin Cash are thinking about all the time, that there's this big distance between BTC, which is this uninterrupted history of being the number one coin.
Yes.
And BCH, which is like,
Yeah, wrecked. Yeah.
Moving through different like 20, 30, 40, 20 place, 25 place, like moving all around there, mixed in with, stuff that's like an overt joke, Dogecoin.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, well, that's right. And things have not gone that great. BCH, and I have a FAQ on my website and stuff about it, because a lot of people will just say, like, the market has spoken, it's all over. Of course, it's not over. The market never stops speaking.
Yeah, the market has always spoken, but the market will always speak again tomorrow. And so
Exactly.
so it's true until it's not.
So, like, yeah, the game's still live. Sort of the way I see it is that at the real issue in the block size, again, it wasn't really about the technicals. It was about sabotaging the project, and that there was either deliberate, malicious bad actors. So there was a few of them, but then you have a few of them, which then gets compounded by a lot of naive people who just conform and go along with it and don't sort of critically think. And then that sort of spirals out of control. So even though it wasn't ideal that BCH had to split away and force a split, like, the only reason that happened was because it was the last resort. And there was obviously the SegWit 2x thing, which then fell apart. And I don't know whether that fell apart, because it was always like a sham. It was like offering a false compromise that then got rugged, or whether there just wasn't will to do it because nobody really wanted a middle ground. Everybody was either, polarized one way or the other.
The SegWit 2x idea was an example of extremely bad strategy.
Yes.
It was bad game theory. So SegWit 2x was announced. SegWit 2x and Bitcoin Cash kind of split the vote. In my paradigm, these are all things that are like a vote, and there's like a 100%. There's like a pie.
Yes.
And the network effects are big.
Yes.
And, a lot of things in life have this feature. So I'm not like completely, off in outer space with this. Like if there's if a bunch of people are throwing a party, or even at a party, there's people in different rooms, like people will clump up in wherever the popular room is, like this is just the way people are. And this is just reasonable. People it's just easier. Everyone, you drive on the left side of the road, you drive on the right side of the road. People really.
I don't think that explains it enough, though. Like, to see and in my model of things. Okay, so
there's
you have
much more too. I mean, you see, I have my big slide here. So this split the vote is only my first bullet point.
Hang on. I just want to deal with this before we get on to some of the other points. So, because in my mind, like I said at the start of the show, goal is, and I think you agree, for Bitcoin, any version, is to become the one money that everybody in the world is using, right? So, and I'd add a small stipulation as well that it kind of needs to be non-custodial to some extent, at least. You need the vast majority of the world transacting non-custodially on Bitcoin. If it ends up with too many custodians, we're right back to where you started. So really what we're talking about, the network effect that matters, even if the market cap or the branding or whatever follows the market cap of all the people involved, the ones that are actually important are the market cap of people transacting peer-to-peer non-custodially, right? So Bitcoin, in my mind, it's like Bitcoin got to 2017 and it's basically stopped. Like, Bitcoin Cash has inched a little bit further ahead, and sure, it's not rocketing forward because of that loss of network effect. But despite all the price and despite everything like that, when you look at like the real peer-to-peer economy of people, like most of BTC is just traded between exchanges. Lightning Network's not really getting anywhere. There's like El Salvador, which is kind of not really working and uses custodian stuff. Like, BCH has. El
Salvador is very much a double-edged sword, and it's quite up in the air as to whether or not
that's even going to work, right?
Yeah.
But BCH has like Townsville.
The El Salvador wallet is linked to their version of the social security number and their identity, so it's fully custodial and fully KYC.
Yeah,
and so that is what these poor El Salvadorians will think crypto means.
Bitcoin is.
It's like,
it's the West. Exactly.
Right.
So you have like Townsville and St. Kitts and stuff like that. Like, you have, even despite all the problems, BCH still is proving that it could work. It hasn't broken through yet. And I would explain that by, first we had to get rid of all these BSV people, and then there was the eCash people, and there was all these problems, right? So really, BCH has only had about 2.5 years, about the length of this show, where everybody has been on the same page with what we're doing. There was so much infighting and all that for so many years.
This is why the politics is real, because the actual task of getting everyone on the same page, that is itself, that's something
that's the battle.
You would have a library. It would be like chemistry, like that is a real field of human knowledge. And I would say that's basically politics or something like it.
Yes.
Leadership or something. And so, yes, you've dealt with many issues here. So it's like, again, this is part of why the hard fork is a dangerous technique. You know, the Drivechain is soft fork.
Yes.
And the soft fork is just better because it doesn't split the community. The hard fork splits the community. People don't like it when the community split. Most average people this is like driving on the left versus driving on the right, where people actually don't care which it is, but they want to know that they're on the same system as everyone else. They don't want to be out of consensus or something. So you've dealt with many different things. And Bitcoin SV is a perfect example of you live by the hard fork, you die by the hard fork, you split out. You say we want larger blocks. Someone says we'll split out, we want even larger blocks. Now you're in a very difficult position. And if Bitcoin SV were the one that was more successful than BCH, if that had happened, they would split again. Someone else would run the same algorithm, the same split algorithm. And so this is people like to be near people who are team players, or they show loyalty to people who show loyalty to them. And this is
yes,
these people clump up. So this is the useful part of conformity is the teamwork.
That's right. So it was a messy. So in my, again, mental narrative, and you could have a different one, and we're only going to see over the next, like, let's say 5 years, right? But in my mind, there was all the sort of bad actors, however you want to put it, got filtered out in the BTC for people who didn't really understand it, or at the very least, they had a different understanding of how Bitcoin works, how it should scale, all that kind of stuff. So you got rid of all those people who didn't agree with at least the way I read the white paper and thought it was all going to work. And then you had the same in the BSV and the same with the XEC. And then from that point, and the reason I started this podcast was because I thought, wait a second, the BCH community is ready to unite. And things have been calmer over this last 2.5 years than they ever have been before. So my contention is that that's a huge problem, like you said, all these splitting off and so on. But I think that it's over. I think that over the next 5 years,
that I think actually one of the useful things about dropping so low in the rankings is that now everyone who's in the community understands, okay, we have a collective problem here, which is we need to get out of like number 26. Yeah. And so this forces everyone to be more proactive about agreement. And I have to agree with something else that you said earlier, which, and I'm going to melt it down and recast it into my weird framework.
Yes,
which
go
is
ahead.
that we used to have, you said like, we need to get lots of people using Bitcoin / Bitcoin Cash / whatever, the idea is that whatever the concept is, and we don't want it to be custodial. So I melt that down and I recast it. And I say, we used to have a meme in Bitcoin called Bitcoin versus the banks, which was that you're either doing your transacting with a bank, with whatever, PayPal, Venmo, credit card, call all of that the banks, that's banking.
Yes.
It goes all the way up to the Federal Reserve and even the Bank of International Settlements. The entire thing, the entire column or whatever, pyramid, whatever you want to call it, that could be replaced by Bitcoin. That whole thing could be replaced. Everything that the Fed does, everything the Bank of International Settlements does, it's global, it's open source. So that was, again, a pie chart where it was like, here's the percent. Everyone, 100% is using banks, or maybe, and then like 3% is using like physical cash, like paper currency.
Yeah.
And then like 0.001% is like using gold coins. Like you could go to like the Free State Project or something, like spend like a Peter Schiff, like gold.
The gold leaf. Yeah. The gold backs. Yeah. They're amazing, by the way. I want to get one of those. I don't have one, but I'm going to have to go to New Hampshire to get one.
This is the pie chart of how many consensual economic transactions with however you want to do it. You can do it by market cap. It's basically the same answer. So it's all the banks and then a tiny little bit of cash and gold. And you say we replace all of that with the blockchain, and that would be success. So that would be like we win when the banks are all defeated and they're all dead.
Yeah.
So again, for me, it's also like this adversarial pie chart that adds up to 100%, and one person's success is the other person's failure.
Yes,
of course, sense of like kind of a cooperation is fight to the death.
Yeah, it's all in. You got to win all in. Like, we agree on that. I'm very sort of maximalist in that sense, not in a toxic way, just the same as you. Like, it's not about saying anybody else can't do anything else. It's about it's only going to fly if we can go all the way to basically 100%. Like it's
Right.
all or nothing. Yeah. So
Yeah,
we agree on
we
that.
agree. So you see, but again, this is where we disagree, is that you have, it's like these two things that are stuck together, which is the large block movement or the large block concept.
Yes.
And then there's all these implementation details. One of which is the fact that there is this number one cryptocurrency BTC. See, like I have a very different interpretation of it. It's something like Bitcoin Cash caught a lot of idealistic people who thought the hard fork wouldn't be a big downside. I think it is a big downside, and you have to take it a very serious problem. And then also, it's like more and more people who just are, what you might say, like delusional about how bad it is to be low on the ranking, are like,
yes.
I think there's a little bit of truth to both, but the heart of my critique is that you could have the idea 100% correct, and I don't think it would matter, because it's like Esperanto is a better language than English, but no one cares.
Yes.
We're speaking English now, and we're going to be speaking English 200 years from now. And
yes.
That's because most people speak English, and it's better. Again, it's better to have the languages all have like annoying overlap that people don't like. So like 9 is German for no, but it's English for the number after 8.
Yes.
Rect, Dutch is rect for right.
Yes.
Like left and right, but wrecked is the shipwrecked or whatever, ruined. So this happens over and over again. People just want a consistent dictionary.
Can I hop in here for just a moment?
Care about it. Yes.
Yeah, Jet, get in there.
Okay, so you guys are going on about a lot of technical stuff that I think, nerds appreciate. But here's the thing. At the end of the day, I was using Bitcoin in 2017. When I saw the fees to send one transaction be $60, I was like, no, this is not for me. I'm never going to suggest this to anyone. I think the majority of people will have that reaction. So while I can appreciate the points, can we just cut to the chase? Like, users aren't going to pay ridiculously high fees.
You're right.
What's the solution?
Because it would be a one-shot KO, and Bitcoin Cash would have defeated BTC if these fees did not, like, if it were permanent, if the fees had some kind of like longevity or permanence to them, such as if they were like every year it calculated like the new fee for the whole year, and there was not
like $50 or whatever.
Yeah, that would be it, because then it would just be like, okay, $50 for the next year. That's not going to work. But
that's why BTC is screwed, because the fees go up. And the whole community is like, oh, we've actually got our mining budget sorted. Of course, people won't pay it and they go back down. But in that spike, people have left to other. BTC has anti-network effect now, because whenever it succeeds, like with ordinals, people get shoved off into alternatives. And that process is slow, but sooner or later, there's enough churn that the rest of the crypto market is now already much bigger than, but maybe not, like by market cap, it's close, right? But all of crypto combined, there's so much more innovation, so many more devs, so many more conferences. There's more in the altcoin market than there is in BTC, and that narrative lead has been lost. More people join crypto than through Bitcoin these days, and they have for years. And that process is only going to accelerate. So how BTC didn't get a critical mass, it just hasn't.
It's it's a question of like perspective. So it's like this: the high fees are a problem, but the solution isn't automatically we adopt Bitcoin Cash. I think it might have been, if not for some of these other issues on my slide, these may have actually ruined they may have been that if some of these things had happened differently, Bitcoin Cash would have succeeded.
All right, so hit me with some of these reasons. Let's talk through some of these.
But it's very important to point out that some people will say either the fees go up, and the people they think, okay, once Bitcoin Cash is only 8x, so this is a problem of every blockchain in the world, the whole world. And I'm just going back to fiat because they don't have this figured out yet.
Yes.
Or they go to Ethereum instead of Bitcoin Cash. They say, okay, the number one isn't working. The strategy of being very conservative, keeping the block size small, treating it like a digital rock, that's not working. But the number two coin is doing more like liberal, more experimentation, weird other stuff. So maybe that's the one to try. So it's not automatically the case that the fees, and it's also not the case. It would be nice, again, because the fees are only up temporarily and often only up during like a crazy bull market. The fee is often subsumed in the gains. Because you have a situation where the coin is going from like $700 to like $19,000. Someone thinks, well, I just paid $50 like 6 times, but I just made like a huge amount of money. Like I just made like a life-altering amount of money. So, and this is like the greatest performing asset. And then, stupid like TD Ameritrade or whatever is going to charge some random Joe the plumber $75 a trade. So in the framing doesn't automatically translate to, even though it absolutely pushes people away from BTC. 100% correct about that. That doesn't mean in this huge space they land on BCH.
Well, not yet. They haven't, and that's right. I agree with you. Like, there's too much distractionary other stuff, and like you said, BCH is down the ranks, so it's got to fight through all this noise of all this other crap, right? But
so you want to go? This has very little to do with. I agree with Jet. The real question is like, what should someone in Bitcoin Cash do today? And again, that question comes in completely 2 different flavors of like, are you like a BCH whale and you want the UTXO to succeed? Is different from, do you want the large block concept or the some version of that, something that says something like, we're not going to be crazy about keeping the block size down to make nodes cheap or something. There's like the large blocker movement or concept, and then there's like, I own BCH, what do I do? Those are separate, and in fact they may actually have a lot of a disagreement. Right.
Okay. So, I mean, for me, I think it's pretty simple, and I think most people in the BCH community, at least today, are on this page. That it's very, like I said, we're trying to get 6.5 billion to 8 billion people transacting in Bitcoin Cash, peer to peer, on the layer 1 blockchain. It's like that. It's that simple. And okay, at the moment, we've only got whatever it is, 10,000 people using it a day, or 5,000, whatever it is, right? But this is an exponential. So if we can get if you imagine a scenario where BCH gets back in the top 10, let's just say maybe it's just a fluke, price pumps, like recently it went from 100 to 250, right? It gets back in the top 10. Suddenly everybody thinks, wait, what's going on with Bitcoin Cash? They look into it. Network effect starts reforming. Like a flippening would be viable if BCH got a big enough price pump, and then all this network effect and all that, it would switch very fast, right?
It's very difficult because the network effect, of course, self-perpetuates, where the people who are top and rising, they have enormous momentum.
Yes.
And nonetheless, so then the other thing is like, you want something that's not the network effect to be good enough to start moving you up.
It needs to be 10 to 100x. Yeah, better. You need a critical edge to be an innovative thing.
And that has to be something that other people can't like learn from and then copy quickly.
Yes.
So this is the other issue with something that is too simple of a change of just changing the block size limit. If that starts to really work, and you would see that in the BTC community, this would start to trigger desperate creativity in people.
Yes.
Because one of the times in which people do become creative is when it becomes clear
they're under pressure.
Everyone is conforming and it's not working. And then people say, that starts to shut off the part of their brain that conforms. They say, well, this isn't working. We need to do panic mode. And this is, again, similar to the losing election thing, where it's like if a political party in the United States loses an election like 2 or 3 times in a row, it will become self-critical. It will say, why do we always lose? We need to do something else. This isn't working, And I think this does also explain Trump to some extent, where Hillary, the road was paved for her to win. She had the conventional campaign locked down completely. Many Republicans saw that coming from a mile away, and they said, we need to just do
something radical.
Something that we wouldn't normally do to win. Yeah. If we want just chance, if we want a 5% chance of winning, we need. So I think people are actually naturally very amenable to this type of reasoning. So that's kind of like what's already happening, because, like I said, you're already falling low, and now people are motivated to use teamwork to. But you have to have something that cannot easily be copied.
I think we have that, though. I think we have. So there's obviously the large block strategy is not necessarily unique. You have BSV, you have sort of Litecoin to some extent, maybe Dogecoin, but there is no UTXO layer 1 blockchain that has the sort of community governance and like hardcore that BCH does. It's unique in that way.
Yeah, community would be one example.
Yes, because like the BTC people, they can, like you said, in desperate times will spark desperate measures. I agree with that. But where we disagree, I think, is that in a scenario where BCH started rising and because once the narrative shifts, it's over. The same as like coronavirus, once everybody was like, oh, we don't need to wear these masks, boom, it all went away like very quick. It's there's a prisoner's dilemma among people on the BTC side if BCH starts rising, because if the ratio rises, there's only 21 million BTC and 21 million BCH, right? So if the ratio is shifting, 95% of the BCH is already either lost or locked up by BCH holders. So every BTC holder is watching their share of the BCH chain shrink in real time, and they have to get a little bit to avoid being left out, and that self-perpetuates, right? So if that process,
but it's in both directions, of course.
Yeah, of course, and that's right. But BCH has proven that it can survive being a minority chain. BTC has no such proof. If the
good thing shifted, for you is that what sometimes happens. So, like the Easter Island head people or something died basically, and it's thought that making these heads and burying them, and the head is it's like it's got a whole shoulders and like chest that's buried underground. So it's very labor intensive thing, and it's thought that they were making so many of these, they had cut down so many trees or something, and the ecology of the island started to just die off basically. And it thought that the way the community reacted to this was they interpreted it as the gods being angry with them, and they started to make even more heads. And the rate of construction of the Easter Island heads ramped up dramatically in like the last 20 years or so, and just leading to them all dying. And this is another well-known thing, is that sometimes, like when people have the wrong idea, they start to lose, and then they decide, okay, we need to conform. The problem is we didn't conform enough. We need to conform even more. We need to make sure Udi is never invited to, whatever conferences, and do even less, care even less about we're under attack. It's all these people who are coming in and they're trying to trick us into raising the block size. We need to shrink the block size, whatever.
Yes.
So that would help. That would help you. And of course, the BTC community is becoming more and more of a cult all the time, which is very good for anyone who wants to compete. That cult is not, So that's dealing with the stigma is also good. And one way of dealing with the stigma, as you said, of being low is to just say, well, we've been low the whole time. We're still alive, so it's kind of like you flaunt it if you.
It's a resilience thing, right? There's no chain which is as undeniably unkillable as BCH. There's nothing that can wipe out BCH. If there was, it would literally everything has been tried. And when you said about things being unique, one of the things BCH has is obviously it has SHA-256, right? So again, price pumps, miners have proven they just migrate, they just follow the money. So if the price pumps and we can get back all the innovation, all the mining security, everything can all just flip back to BCH, and you can't copy that on any other coin except obviously like BSV and eCash, but they're in the worst situation than we are for the same reasons, right? So that's also a unique angle, that like proof of work, all that stuff. You're not going to start a new billion-dollar mining industry on any other coin. It's not going to happen.
Well, yeah, I think that's the case. I mean, I think again, like the network effects are very strong, and then of course, if each person has as Richard Feynman said, you're the easiest person to fool is yourself or whatever. So it's very easy to think something will work if it's really not viable. Do you want to go through these are historical things, but I think part of winning would be to rationally process some of these flaws and say, okay, we won't do this again.
Okay, yeah, let's hear it. I'm.
Can I ask?
You got when I split the yes.
Okay, well, if you want to go through this first, that's fine too. I'm just curious. Do you think that the crypto market is mostly like speculators, investors, that kind of thing? And if so, do you think there will be a point in time during our lifetimes where that will kind of split off and you'll have the investment portion of it and then people that are interested in using it as their daily cash?
I think a huge part of what it is that people are speculating on is whether or not it will be adopted as by regular users. I think this is like a delusion in the BTC world that the BTC world thinks something like this. They think it's not currently being used by everyone, but it's smart people are working on it. They have and this is the same in Ethereum. I heard this all the time, like 2015, 2016. I would ask people questions and then they would say Vitalik has said he's working on it or something. So I think that most people take it on faith. They know that the amount of time that it would take for them to become acquainted with these issues on the right way to scale blockchain, they know that's not in the cards for them any more than they would become a great automotive engineer or someone who's going to build a satellite or something.
So
Exactly.
how much
People, they're not going to be able to. They know that most people, they don't even know enough. How would you be a great chicken farmer or something? Most people have not a clue. They don't know any of the relevant problems or state of the art. People are specialists, and so I think what's going through people's heads is something I think open source technology, people are inventing stuff. They say stuff is being invented, and when the thing is invented, BTC will probably use it. I think that's a common belief.
But that's defied by reality, right?
Yeah.
Drivechains is that thing, but it's not work. From my perspective, you've been just gaslit for 8 years with a captured dev team that never wants to listen. I also got to ask you about hiring Peter Todd. I think that's a hilarious strategy. You're paying him to tell you that he's a bad actor. What progress are you going to make with all of this? Is Drivechains
Peter Todd specifically? I would he just has vague complaints that I think,
exactly. He's a bad actor. He doesn't.
Well, I'd like him
make
to
any real
write
argument.
them down, and then he's going to come on Stefan Livera's podcast with me for 2 hours.
But you think that's going to change anything? All he'll do is he'll just change his arguments. He'll come up with some new bullshit. Have you never met anybody?
Whatever it is, I'm willing to have it stand or fall on a 2-hour thing that has a beginning and an end. Whereas, on Twitter,
That's a logical argument. We already talked about people are conformists. Things go on the way they go, even if you have the rational best arguments.
But
All
there's
people
no
need to do is throw enough bullshit in the mix.
There are things you can do if the facts are on your side and you have enough IQ points to match the opponent. You can eventually catch someone in a contradiction, or just someone is just revealed as being unprepared, or they're humiliated, or they're just unreasonable or something. So that is the key. Is that I think actually what mostly drives people is the fear of being humiliated. So I have to bring something, and then people will weigh that. They'll weigh whatever he has against what I offer, which is world domination of the investment, both financially, technologically, and just culturally, and just all that other stuff. So right now it's vague. He's helping him to be vague because he's not correct.
Okay. Yes. I agree with that. So you're going to get this all clarified. What's the game plan here? You're going to do this podcast. You're going to get it all right. What happens if, even if you wreck him on the talk, then afterwards all the cultists just double down because they're cultists, like we said, Easter Island, no Drivechains, this guy's a shitcoin or whatever it is.
You're absolutely right, but you need some kind of antibody to appeal to indifferent people. You need to say, listen, you need bullet points.
Yes.
Which is ironically kind of like this slide where it's here are the things, and here, this is what was done wrong, and this is why. So you need It can't be vague. People, because it's very much like the stigma idea of being 26th. You need to say, we are 26th, but this is why it doesn't matter.
Yes.
It won't work if it's shame and these other stigma related things are very you're supposed to avoid talking about them, but I don't think that works. The only way is to just say, I'm interviewing for this job, and I went to whatever, like someone's went to Harvard, and I went to whatever you want to call it, Buff State, and they say, I say, listen, I know I went to Buff State, but my father is this whatever, or so you say something, you say, but I this one specific thing that you do is the thing I was interested in my entire life. You just grab the bull by the horns and you say, and the other thing about stigma is people often, they think if I don't hire the person from Harvard, I'll be blamed later. They think it travels from mind to mind. It is contagious. So it needs to be something else that's contagious. You need to have like some other thing that is contagious. So I don't know if I'm explaining this very well, but it's something like people will think, okay, I know that this person would do a good job, but how does my boss know that I knew that or something? And then they say, well, it's something that looks a certain way. It's basically like, okay, it looks a certain way to me, but how does it look to an observer? And how does it look to when that person's observed? So you take all the numbers and you square them, and then you cube them, and then you add them to the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th power. And that's what it really looks. So
you're trying to build credibility is basically what this comes down to. You think you can make a credible,
like a sex offender registry or something. You may think, well, I don't care at all. And you might think, I know my friend doesn't care either. But then you think, well, wait a minute. What about if like my friend's girlfriend cares or whatever? And then the friend's girlfriend might not care, but this girlfriend's friend might think that it cares. So every time there's ambiguity, it pours fuel. You're raising it to more and more exponents. So you see, it might have just been split 0.49, 0.51 or something. It might have been fit like negative 0.01 or whatever it is, like it's 0.99, 0.102, like something that's like a slight disadvantage for one person, a slight advantage. But now once you raise it to like the 4 millionth power, it's one of them is basically zero and one is whatever. And that's why people from Harvard get whatever job they apply for. And because if the person turns out to be bad, it still looks like the hiring manager did a good job. I mean, it's to be blamed for you. You say, why did Harvard graduate this idiot? So that's what I'm trying to say is it has to be something where it's not just clear to you. Like the fact that you ever play a game like Among Us or something, games? You know who the killer is, but that's not enough. You have to prove it.
You've got to convince everyone else.
Yeah.
Yes. So I understand your strategy is that you're going to try and prove to the BTC community that not only do you know that it's the best thing, but enough other people know it, and the objectives like Peter told,
anyone who would look into it has to be like down to like a 15 minute, you put it all on one web page.
Yes. But that's what you've been doing for 8 years with the Drivechain blog and everything. And you're no closer than you were.
I think I'm getting much closer personally. Okay. One reason why I'm not closer is I never had like put out like I still haven't put out like a pull request or anything. And we didn't have a lot of example software.
Yeah.
So we have done a lot of stuff. So it's true that I've done much more, I think, than I should have had to have done. I think just publishing the post in November 2015 probably should have been enough, and probably everyone should have just said, you know what, this is actually a lot better than something like SegWit or definitely Taproot, because SegWit was kind of still in like a compromised vein, where it was partly a block size increase, as we already discussed, and partly a Lightning enabler. But part of what happened was the people who would normally have been a champion of Drivechain, they left to do SegWit 2x.
They were the big blockers.
So that made it more difficult for something like my idea, which was like a compromise idea, because it said, well, those people that we were trying to keep they have already left, and they have sort of declared war. They have launched a competing investment. So in many ways, the large blockers' activities have not only failed, but have also subverted the large blocker idea. And
on BTC at least.
Instead,
we don't care about that, so that's fine.
Well, right. That's what I'm talking about with this separation of like, is it on one hand, it's a conception of the public good. So it's like saying we should have gay marriage or something. It's like we should have large blocks. We should not have constrained blocks. We should have unlimited block size as you want to add more, you can run new software that adds 8 megabytes here, adds 20 megabytes here, whatever. So that's the idea. And then there's like the details, which is this slide.
So, but I want to know
know that.
specifically. I want to know specifically, like, if your plan to implement Drivechain, if it sort of doesn't work, like you try and convince Peter Todd or whatever, it doesn't work, you still don't win people over. At what point, like, how long is a piece of string? There's two ways of looking at it. What would convince you that you're never going to get Drivechains onto BTC, or will you just carry on with that forever? Or alternatively, what could BCH do that would be strong enough of a run against the network effect that you would see that the tables had flipped? Like if BCH was a 2 on the coin market cap today, it was where Ethereum was, would you be like, maybe BCH is going to, if they were 1-to-1, would you flip to BCH?
Well, I think if BCH goes from launching, then crashing way down, and then comes back up to being a tie, I would probably think most people would be like, wow. Like, I think it would, the problem with the price is very important, but the price is always like a second order thing. You know, it's like, what are people's beliefs? Like, how do we get to this point?
Yeah, but let's just say hypothetically, it's 1-to-1. Are you on team BCH now?
I definitely would say. Well, I would say the instant it goes the instant it goes to
1.01.
Oh, 1, I would say that that would probably. I think, again, I hate to dodge your question, but I'm trying to answer it honestly, which is that
yes,
part of the issue is this going to stimulate the despair creativity in BTC, where they're going to say, oh, we kick everyone out, we kick out whatever, we kick out safety, and we kick out even Michael Saylor or something, where you say, like, someone who thinks that the success is preordained, we say, is it going to like reorient the whole project, where now actually they have the same tech stack, but just different UTXO set. So it's always the question of why. But my guess is that it wouldn't make it to that point if that were the case.
But let's just say it was. Let's hypothetically, with theory crafting here, we hit 1.001. Are you on team BCH?
I think no, but you are kind of dodging my question, which is to say,
I'll answer your question. Just give me a yes or no.
There's permanent features that have nothing to do with the price. And then there's the price. So if they tie, and then it would come down to the permanent, whatever the permanent features would be the tiebreaker by far.
Okay, so if we would, but you made so many arguments about the network.
They have to be very good to drive it up from 26 to tie.
Yeah, so we can talk about those features and things that we're doing to innovate. But like, what if BCH is 2-to-1 in price ahead of BTC? Then any of your arguments about network effect and whatever.
Yeah, I think that would all the reasons why BCH is at a disadvantage to BTC today, all of that would apply double in reverse.
Yes.
I completely agree with that. Yes. 100%.
So then
BTC in particular is kind of fragile, as you were saying, because it has never been without the crown. So it's never known, it has never tasted true adversity in a way.
Yes.
So if it were ever flipped by anything, I would say that would be a very bad day. It was just it would be a good day for Bitcoin Cash, for Ethereum to flip BTC.
Yes.
It would weaken BTC, I think, like a ton.
Are you worried about that? Do you think that's on the horizon?
Possible. I think that's like 5, 6, 7, 8% chance of happening. Yeah.
Okay. So there's
enough 0% chance. But I think the thing about Ethereum is it's trying new things all the time. And most of those things are bad. But that with Darwinian evolution, most of those things are bad. But it's still
eventually they get there.
Yeah.
That's right. So on a long enough time scale, they're going to catch them, right? This is what it sort of comes down to. Like, this is what I was saying about in 2017, BTC stalled, and the network effect has taken it a long way. Maybe it'll take it a long way further, but enough people throwing enough darts at the wall in the altcoin market is eventually going to flip BTC. It's a guarantee, basically, unless you can get in Drivechains. And
but I kind of sort of, because I think part of what happens is people show up, they learn the rules of the cult, just like in my avatar paradigm. But then it's too easy, actually, because it's too simple. And then people start to ask little questions, like they say, well, I've never really used Lightning, but they say it's really good. Then they use it and they're like, it's okay. Or they're like, I can't really tell if it's custodial or not. That seems important. So I think that people, it's too easy to perfect. And it actually becomes boring also. Like, you learn the talking points. You learn all the good Michael Saylor talking points, which are very good. Michael Saylor has done a pretty good job of only taking he's left a lot of the dumber ones by the wayside. To his credit.
But all the dumb people are now in BTC. That's the problem. You have a network effect of all the cultists. Like that's not getting you very far.
Yes.
So your network effect at the price and the hash rate level and the brand level is strong.
The hash rate,
but your network effect at the
hash rate is a reflection of the price.
Yes.
Means nothing at all.
Okay, so price and brand, then let's say, and maybe technical integrations, strong network effect, but that comes with the network effect of all the laser eye morons, right? So it's a question of whether that's enough, you think, to carry the day. But I would argue that the community network effect is the hardest thing to change. Once something is rooted into that culture, it's impossible to get out.
It's often, though, you are right that these people are not the highest quality and certainly not the most like intelligent or creative. But again, people are thinking, I want the biggest network effect. And they think, oh, I have a bunch of morons in my network who are never going to leave. They're so stupid, they'll still be here when the ship sinks.
That's exactly what I'm saying. Once the ship starts thinking.
Because I have more people now on my team.
You're going to be left with all the morons. That's what's happened. All the devs, all the excitement, all the interesting, creative people. 99% of them are in.
It's all additive. It's a lot. In large part, it's additive. You say I got like 12 smart people plus 10,000 morons. That's actually to have plus 100,000 morons is still. It's still better.
It's not going to get you to global reserve currency, though.
You're growing. You're the number one coin. You're growing.
It's not growing, though.
You're the club everyone wants to get into. Yeah, I agree that.
But they don't. Except for ordinals, that briefly brought it back.
I agree that it hasn't grown. It hasn't grown since 2017. I think it actually has basically been flat, and that the
there you go.
Has been like that. That has been accurate.
Yes.
Yeah. It really went in December 2017. It went to 20,000, and now it's like 30,000. That was the COVID inflation.
Yes.
And like that's basically what happened.
I have one more question.
Yeah, let's hear
it. So this is coming. I've said this on the show a bunch of times now. I feel incredibly confident in Bitcoin Cash because I've seen people where you're just like, okay, what are you interested in? And most of the time it's like Dogecoin or some, almost offensive, right? And so you go, okay, we'll try out the top 5. What has the best user experience for you? I have never once heard someone say Bitcoin. The only time you hear people say Ethereum is when they're making ridiculous degen gains, right? And so over time, the more people that go through this process of discovery with cryptocurrencies, I feel like are going to end up on the one that is most useful for them. And I really don't see a lot of use to most people aren't investors, right? So they're not going to pay too much attention to DeFi or even exchanges once we get to the point that I'm looking for. And so my question to you is, where do you think the process of discovery will lead people, given your narrative of the crypto market?
But again, remember, I have these two separate issues, which is like, you could throw a party and you could say, I have a bunch of nice couches in the living room or something, but everyone's just standing in the kitchen, and you can say, well, why is this? The couches are so much better, Yeah,
but we need the cool people.
It doesn't work that way, Like people have already, they clump up and they don't, some people are easy to move, but those people end up with the people who are hard to move. They're the center of gravity, the hard to move people, and the easy to move people clump up around them or whatever. It's like, you have a couple, maybe you have some people who are like disabled, they're in a wheelchair, they're overweight, and they're not going to get out of wherever their seat is. That's the room. Everyone will end up in that room.
Hang on a second, Paul. You're talking my language here. I'd love this. I threw a lot of parties at university, right? Yeah. So I agree with you. You do need to get a critical mass of the cool people into your room, right? So that's what this podcast is, right? And that's at least, you might think it's a great attempt. It's not a terrible, it's a
cool already.
Good or a bad attempt. But you're here, exactly. You've rocked up. So we're already got more credibility that this is the cool party than we did 2 hours ago, right?
Of course.
So if I can, so this is why I'm asking you about the price. Is there a certain number of, from a list of the top 100 BTC people, is there a certain threshold of them that if I got them all on the show, had a chat, they were all like, BCH is kind of cool, doing some interesting stuff, that you would flip? It's another variation of the same question. Give me the line. What's the line at which you'll flip? And then I'll go down the list. I'll find those other people. And I'll do that.
On the right lines. I think.
Yeah.
I think like there's like some self-delusion in every coin, right? They always think
Yes.
whatever it is, oh, this is the summer of Litecoin or something. We just got to get Litecoin people like on my podcast or whatever. I think it's kind of like this is the question: how to win if you are smaller is some kind of unimitable things that can't be imitated. These features.
Bitcoin Cash Podcast. You can't imitate that.
That's true. I mean, there's a lot of BTC podcasts. There's too many BTC podcasts.
Yeah, but they all suck. They all suck.
Yeah,
you're having a better conversation here than on any of those.
The lack of novelty, I think, is key. Where it's a similar thing to what I was saying, which is a perfectible culture, like the Easter Island thing, where it's like that.
It's in a loop. It's like ants.
Only so much can be said in the BTC podcast, right?
That's right.
Say, fix the money, fix the world. 21 million. TikTok.
Michael Saylor. Yeah. Institutions are coming.
Respectable, and it's new. A lot of people, at every given year, a lot of people are brand new. It's their first 12 months. So at first they're like, wow. They're like, what is a private key? I can have as many as I want. People are like, they have to learn all this stuff. They learn the basics. Hash function. Now you can take a hash function like an 8 terabyte. So people are learning that people are new, and then they don't realize that the conversation continues. But I think this is a similar thing where they get stigmatized in the BTC world, and then they don't know how to leave. How do they leave and end up in BCH?
All right, Paul, the chat is going crazy. We got to cut.
People are asking things.
Cash tokens. Do you know what cash tokens is?
My guess is it's some kind of like a bit asset, like a counterparty on BCH or something.
Yeah, it's basically like the BCH protocol upgraded on May 15th with fungible and non-fungible tokens directly integrated into at a miner validated level, right? And the key point, which I know you'll sort of grok with only about 5 seconds to think about it, is that you can also attach some arbitrary data in what's called a commitment field. So you can now not only have a fungible and non-fungible token ecosystem, an NFT can carry a message.
Image.
No, not like that. Like an arbitrary data string, just a small one, just like a few, I don't know how many, but it's like a couple bytes worth of data, right? So you can now use an NFT, can carry a message between contracts on the chain, right? So you can have a whole DeFi ecosystem in UTXO, even though it's all stateless and parallelizable and so on. And global state introspection. There you go.
Okay, that's good. I think that's like a good thing to do. I mean, I don't know if that would be like enough, because but that's good. You should be thinking like, okay, these NFTs, ICOs and NFTs and similar things, they've been around forever.
We're not talking about that. There will be some of that, but when
I say that as a good thing, I say this is clearly something that people actually want.
Yes.
You can even see stuff like a lot of people you pay every month for something like Carta. You know about that? Where this is like a startup's cap table.
No, I don't know that.
And you pay money, and it's basically just a CSV file, But this is an important thing to keep it right and to let everyone know that they're looking at the same cap table. But the ICO world and tokens can replace that. And of course, you have people like Bruce Fenton, who has been in the securities world for a long time. People trading stocks, bonds, other derivatives, other claims for things. They complain all the time. The old system doesn't work, and the critiques of this that say this represents a stock of a company. The company isn't on the blockchain. The company still needs audit. People say the people who with expertise say, yes, you're right, but I don't care because company is still good. The process by which my Google stock moves around, I just want to improve that part. So it doesn't matter that Google isn't. I don't want the whole thing to be cypherpunk dream or whatever, but I want a little of it. I just want this.
All right.
So this is a thing that people. So building things that people want, that is definitely
can get us that critical edge, right?
The way to go. And you definitely want something. Yeah. So I feel that way about like prediction markets. I feel I have a bunch of stuff
Yes.
that I personally have invented. This thing called like Coin News or whatever. I think people also want, get privacy option. The ZK Snark is, steal Zcash, steal the Ethereum EVM. I would steal everything. It's all open source. I would steal all that, and I'd steal every good idea.
So why don't you launch prediction markets on BCH? The capabilities there today. We're offering
I don't
you.
oppose any of that.
Argue with Peter Todd.
I don't. My view. I think if I could do everything over, I would have launched Truthcoin or whatever as an altcoin, probably in the same way that they did Monero, because I had no idea that it would take so long to get sidechains or interoperability.
Yeah.
Into into one of the major coins. So that is what I would do differently. I think as time goes on, I just see the stigma for BCH sort of getting worse. I don't oppose.
Isn't it getting better?
If people say something like, "I want to copy what Paul did into Bitcoin Cash," and then they message me and they say, will I help advise? Then for free, then the answer is yes. Obviously, I would. So I don't oppose. There's nothing like I think it's.
But why don't you do it? What's this shifting the responsibility onto someone? It's your idea. You want to launch it. You can keep arguing the BTC, or you can make it happen today. Like what are we waiting for?
Well, that's a good question. I think the answer is that actually now I have I have many ideas, and one of them is trying to get Drivechain on BTC.
Yeah,
I'm kind of working on that idea.
But that's what I still don't understand. Like, at what point? You've got a point in mind, because you can carry on forever, like bashing your head against the wall.
Yeah, I think
you think you can get there, but I don't think you can. After that, if it doesn't work, are you going to give up? When do you give up?
I think after I think there's like this Peter Todd thing, and then the pull request.
Yeah,
the actual pull request. I think what I'll say is, here is the pull request. Yeah. I know that it doesn't meet the 100% popularity bar today.
Yes. Yes.
And here it is. And then I would say take it or leave it. And then I'll say if you aren't taking it, I assume you're sort of leaving it. And I think then I would do something else. But so in a similar vein, I don't think that. I don't know that concentrating on BCH is like the. I wouldn't be opposed to that, but I think that. I don't know, it's difficult, because the question of what's best for each UTXO holder in BCH, that may not be what's best for, you may be able to make more money by selling the BCH UTXO for BTC, forking BTC again, and then, because now you get coins on both, selling the BTC after the split, and then buying more of this new third thing, Bitcoin Cash, redone or something.
But you're so far behind at that. That's the problem, is if, BCH had a rough run, we had got dumped on by 1 megabyte laser eyes for years and years and years, driving the price into the ground, had further community splits, had all these problems. Like, that's, if you start a new fork today, you're getting yourself in for 5 years of pain, during which BCH is already going to be crushing it. And what was the point? To make yourself a little bit richer? You should have just converted to BCH, right?
I think the point is that actually many of the people were actually either indifferent or very ignorant.
Mm-hmm.
You have this bell curve. And so the idea would be something like, a lot of people in BTC, maybe they hated the large block. They thought Bitcoin Cash had no future in 2017.
Yes.
Now,
most people now are
they might think now is more like, okay, I'll hold one of each.
But they could still think that today with BCH, if they just became convinced. Like, if you just had it in your mind. Do you have any BCH, by the way?
To me, it is really like the guy who goes into the other room and there's no one in there. They say, tell everyone in the party, come into this room. Yeah,
we're going in circles.
Status quo is a very in game theory. The status quo punches far above its weight.
Yes.
Many.
No, I understand. We can't just keep going in circles. Well, we agree. BCH needs a critical edge, right? So that's why I'm trying to ask you is what proof could I provide you that BCH has that, whether it's a price target, it's somebody who came on the show, it's how many Twitter followers I get Just give me any one target. I'm not going to devote all my resources.
BTC, that would be like
That's it. It's game over.
The question would then be, what had happened like 3 to 6 months earlier?
Yes. Okay.
So
All
that's like that's kind of an unfair answer to your question, because you're really trying.
But it can't be like 1-to-1. Surely is not what it would take, right? Because if BCH was 50% of BTC, it was number 2, slightly higher than ETH. Can you imagine the insane flippening hype? It would be it would be the number 1 crypto story by far, right? So really, we're splitting hairs on a spectrum. At what point does that kick in?
Point also to bring up that it's not so much. I think my view is that it is a kind of an election. So I think there's BTC, there's number 1, there's number 2, and then there's the rest.
Yeah.
So that's how I think of it, which again, maybe most people probably don't. But again, This is me trying to give you my weird take on it. So
no, I'm enjoying this.
Like Democrat, Republican, and then you have the rest.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, because the network effects are so strong, the only thing that could beat one of the 2 major parties is the other party. You know what I mean? Like you're just not credible enough. And that's how people think, and it's self-reinforcing, and that's just the way it is. So to flip even ETH would be crazy, because then you would be the new what they call opposition party. There'd be people in power, but now you'd be the alternative. And they would say proof of stake was dumb, EVM was either dumb or something that BCH could easily copy. So BCH copied EVM. UTXO is superior to account. Like these would all be settled issues now. And the question would just be cult laser eye version versus like more experimental large block version.
Yeah.
So that would be huge all by itself. But the question is, what you want to know is, how do I get up into that? There's these 2.
No, I don't want to know that. I know how to get there. I'm working on that. Don't worry about that. I've got that under control. What I'm trying to do is get you on record as to where's the tipping point, and then I'll find another BTC influencer and another one, and I'll get them all on record, and then I'll make a tipping point. Yeah.
Well, like I say, to me, maybe I'm just repeating myself, and this isn't helping, but I'm thinking, like, the way I think of it is how to win if you're small. Like you have something the bigger people can't copy. You have to deal with this self-delusion cope that all the minor people have, like the younger, everyone who's in the Green Party or the Labor Party or whatever. They think, oh yeah, this is going to be our year.
I'm not asking about everyone. I'm asking about you.
With the fact
You're
that
a
these
voter.
people are so self-deluded. If there's some plan for that's key to like show it, to show the normal people that you are serious, because everyone has seen the guy in the Green Party say, next year is our year. We're going to get, and we just, I can't tell you how many times Jill Stein or whatever, they've said, oh, we just do student loan forgiveness. And they say that's everyone who has said a student has a child or a friend, that's 33% of the population right there. And you just think, man, these people are have disappeared up their own, behind there. These people are crazy.
Yes.
These people are just completely delusional. And so that's key. It's like some kind of, that's where I'm saying you grab all the stigma by the horns, so to speak. You say, listen, okay, I'm you say, I'm a Nigerian businessman. You email the person, you say, listen, I'm from Nigeria. I know there's lots of Nigerian scams, but I'll wire you the money in advance, blah, blah, blah.
Roger Ver has a story like this, but
he does, yeah. It's a type of a story. So that was.
So I'm with you. We need to make an undeniable statement that this is serious business, and getting to number 2 on CoinMarketCap would be that kind of a statement, right? So then what I'm asking is for you individually. You're a voter. You can pick. Is that what it will take getting to?
Well, I'm still thinking about it. I think so. I have an architecture that I think is superior to BCH, which is you have the small block L1 and large block optionally above, and this seems to give everyone what they want, as far as I could tell.
But that's where I'm not too sure. I agree that on a technical sense, maybe it does, but even if you did that, like you asked Kurt Walker Jr. when you talked to him recently. Look, if that happened on BTC, would the BSV people all just sort of get in there and then everyone's happy, everyone's got what they want? But I don't think they have.
Yeah,
he said some of them would check it out, and then maybe it would prove itself and attract the rest. I think it probably would, because the BSV people are already looking for the
I was asking that question very earnestly, thinking the answer would probably be no. And he was saying,
Yes.
well, yeah, he said basically the answer is probably yes, because he said BSV isn't going anywhere. So
That's
he's
right.
kind of
They're looking for the exits.
what I was
Yeah,
saying.
yeah.
So I would say one thing that would convince me, if the BCH community said, actually, we want large blocks, but more than that, we care about being popular to everyone. And we know that, so you like basically implement like, it's the UTXO set of BCH.
Yes.
But the L1 blocks is Bitcoin Core version 25, and it has Taproot or something.
What? Okay.
It has
All right.
Drivechain, and then it has large block L2s that are like Bitcoin Cash, that have cash tokens or whatever. But it's all in the same, via Drivechain or whatever. Like you just copy exactly you just copy the exact design. But it's the same UTXO, it's the same people who own the coin. You just hard fork and just convert it completely. You just load, this is actually easy to do. You just fork Bitcoin Core, add Drivechain, add sidechains that are Bitcoin Cash in their current, convert Bitcoin Cash L1 into Bitcoin Cash to sidechain. Take all of our other sidechains, which include a copy of the latest version of Ethereum and a copy of the latest version of Zcash, which will include my prediction market thing, which I will build. And it also improves, we have a high performance. So just take all the ideas that I personally have. Now, again, like I think my ideas are good, but I'm heavily biased. I don't know if anyone else will think they're good. These may be stigmatized ideas. But you copy Bitcoin Cash in its current form, everything you like about it. You just say, this is now a BIP300 sidechain of L1. And that's the code. And when everything's done, you just delete, you say that we launch at this block height, we delete the Bitcoin Core UTXO set, we add in the Bitcoin Cash UTXO set, we hard fork to this. Now, this would do many things. I'm just trying to give you an idea of how I think about things. You now could have the small block, you could shrink the block size. You have the small block version. You do exactly what BTC, what Bitcoin SV did to you. And you say, when you go talk to the BTC people, you tell them, yeah, it's really important to have a small block size. You tell them the nodes have to be cheap. We need to have decentralization. You just use.
But they're wrong. They're diluted. That's the problem. Just like
I'm talking
to them.
So you just say.
But I already do that, dude. I already go and tell them Bitcoin.
Ossify L1. You say L1 will never change again. Ossification is important. And you just use all that. And now you still do whatever you want on Bitcoin Cash, which is still where people are hanging out or whatever. You can even like load like some UTXOs on L1 and then most of them on Bitcoin Cash, because you're hard forking, do whatever you want. And now you're just giving everyone all these options. Just giving everyone, you have the Ethereum clone, you have the Zcash clone. You have, if people want the small block, you see, this reduces the stigma. Because now you're saying, we think large blocks are good. But if you want small block, you want...
They've already got that. Who would be convinced? Who is joining this new chain besides you? Because the BTC people have BTC, they've got it.
Open pitch to everyone, and you say, whether or not you want Taproot or not, we've got you covered. And whether or not you want large blocks, we have you covered. We are the only chain that does not have the stigma. Everyone else has something they can't do, but we do everything. So I think that...
there are chains like that, like fucking Polygon or whatever those random coins are trying to be like.
If you did all that, I would still be thinking in my head, like, this is number 26. And that's...
Exactly.
So
I agree with you.
I would be, at that point, I would be thinking, wait a minute, this is number 26. So if I sell one Bitcoin, I can get like hundreds of these and I would think that, and then I would think probably that logic starts to make sense. And then the gap closes.
Yes.
And then as the gap closes, it's then it does
more and more people. It becomes self-fulfilling, right?
So, and then I think, but the really big thing would be if somehow you could demonstrate that the irrationality in the BTC community really will last forever, and it has no hope of like actually going away. Which I think it's well on its way to being demonstrated, but not completely.
I've got a present for you there. I have a thread. I'll send it to you after this, where I have called out Eric Wall and Udi for their cognitive dissonance. And they're aware of these threads. They've even replied to
I
it.
don't even think
But
they're
can't-
not even considered like real Bitcoiners, kind of really though.
Exactly. All right.
So it's like,
Well, I mean, I think how am I supposed to
they're like
explain
the
that?
rational. They're also Eric and Udi are like the rational critique people in Bitcoin.
Yes.
They're like,
Yes, I agree.
Why do we build out these Easter Island heads? We need to cook
Yes.
food. We need to plant some of these trees we're cutting down.
That's right. But they're in the same position as you. They don't understand. Well, they're in a slightly different situation because their cognitive dissonance is we can't admit we were wrong. So we've got to kind of try and turn the ship around here. Now you've kind of got that, but at least you have a viable plan. Their plan is just we don't want to admit we were wrong because otherwise they would.
Yeah, my position is something like the network effect is so strong that it doesn't really matter almost how wrong it is. I'm sort of stuck here.
Yes.
And but that has mostly worked out fine for me because BTC has done well from the price and cultural point of view. So it's hard to say that position has been like refuted. From my point of view, it seems more like it was vindicated because I said, listen how dumb it's been a really dumb 5 years, but still we're number one. And in fact, we've gained on Ethereum and other things in some ways. So
not in terms of
in the price way, but not in the community way, right?
But that's why
the whole point.
Yeah, that's right. So I agree with you about all of that, and it kind of comes down to demonstrating a critical edge. Now, one of the ironic things I think about this network effect arguments is that like BTC people say we have the biggest network effect, and it's like no, the US dollar has the biggest network effect, but they believe they can flip that, and I say this also. They have a critical edge.
Yeah, I say if you believe in network effects, then you think BTC will be destroyed by the US dollar, and the US dollar will destroy yen and everything else.
Yes, and like there's of course that isn't the way it works because political fiat rubbish, means that there's a number of fiat options, and then in crypto you do have 100x advantage, or at least you did with Bitcoin before the split against USD. So it was growing despite the network effect, and now BCH is in the same position that it needs to get basically 100x combined advantage, whatever is big enough to outweigh the network effect to start attracting people back into it. But if it hits that tipping point, then it's all over from there, right? If BCH gets 100x lead, like as soon as people start migrating, they already are a little bit, but as soon as it hits a tipping point of enough people, there's no way BTC is ever going to catch up, because if the network effect is not enough, then they're all impacted. Okay, I got to ask you about Jason Dreyzehner. So he has been a big part of this CashTokens initiative on BCH. He's launched that. He's said that we can essentially do Drivechains using it, but maybe the proof of stake instead of the proof of work version, but using the same Truthcoin voting type principles. And he's also credited.
Drivechain is different than Truthcoin. Those are different.
Can you explain that?
Yeah, Truthcoin is a peer-to-peer oracle and a prediction marketplace. So Truthcoin will figure out whether or not someone won the election later. You can bet on it today, then the election happens, then the algorithm will figure out what happened. And it will pay off the right people, and that's great. That's one of the things you would want to do to win, would be try to carve out find new markets or do stuff where no one else is doing it, get a little community together of people who use the blockchain to solve their own problems, such as this political speculation.
Yes. So I think that's coming. We're working on it. We're going to have prediction markets on BCH eventually. It's just the real problem with the small network effect is we've got small amount of horsepower. We don't have tons of money, don't have tons of devs.
I think
that's a big problem.
This prediction market thing I've studied it with love and given it my entire attention for like a long time. And a lot of people screw it up, and I have written many times about what to do instead, but no one listens to me. But then I'm borne out always on the facts. So I'm happy to explain yet again what to do, and and help with that. I think that's another thing where this is the type of thing where the people will be betting, but in their brain they'll be thinking it's in US dollar terms. And in fact, you can do a prediction market in a way where you have bet on multiple things at once. They have many dimensions, like cubes and stuff, instead of lines. And one of them can be that you short the BTC or BCH USD price, And then people are effectively betting in dollars. And now that would be very good because you have now something where it is unaffected by the price and relative rank of BCH.
Yes.
People are just betting in US dollar terms on whatever they would like to bet on, which can be lots of things. And this will cancel.
So would I hang on a second? So would I blow your mind if I told you that the sponsor of this show, BCH Bull, has made that implemented today on Bitcoin Cash, that you can make DeFi contracts where you and I are putting $10 each into a BCH. I put in 10 BCH, you put in 10 BCH, and after X period of time, I get back the same USD value and you get back the rest. So you're matching up people who want a flat rate against an alternate currency.
Well, I mean, blow my mind would be the wrong phrase because, of course, I already published how to do all of that like in 2014, like almost 10 years ago. So
but we have it. We've built it. It's working.
So I mean,
but you can use it right now.
I would like to look into it, and so because of course, but like I think it's a great idea. Of course, you don't have to convince me.
Yes. But that's right. That's what I'm saying. Is you're saying that's the kind of thing, and I agree. Okay, so we're going to have USD denominated. All
and what you do is one clever thing would be to like market it and try not to even explain that it's a Bitcoin Cash thing.
Yes.
But then you don't want people to think, I'm signing on to the 26th thing. What you want people to think of is I can do betting on sports or betting on whatever if I just download this app.
Yeah.
Drivechains, they just download, Cash Kings or whatever.
Yes.
And you don't want them to even think about that. And then that's good because it doesn't even hit any of the stigmatized neurons. They just think, fun thing I like. And then you just do that. And then you can grow that without the stigma weighing you down. And as long as you grow that exponentially, there'll be more people using the network, buying up BCH. The price will then go up. And then you don't even tell people until it's number 2, number 3.
Yes.
Then you flip it the other way. Yes.
Yeah, that is kind of the strategy. I mean, I'm interested that you're so worried about sort of so-called stigma because I think that's less and less of an issue every single day. I think the vast majority of people who are not laser eyes, who are not our target audience anyway, they don't really care about that. Either they don't really understand BCH, Bitcoin, BTC. To them, it's all Bitcoin, close enough, or they don't know about it and they've just come into crypto via Ethereum and they already see the problems in BTC. So if we say it's like the good bits of Bitcoin, but without all the nonsense, then that's actually a positive pitch rather than a negative one, I think.
I think it's possible that it's just my own personality emphasizes certain different things. So I'm just telling you honestly what I feel, that type of thing would bother me.
Yeah. No, fair enough.
People probably not,
Yeah. Okay, all right. We've got 10 minutes left on our slated amount of time. I don't know if you told me you've got like a little bit of time, but then we had a couple other topics here that we can maybe just hit on before we close out, something a bit different from all that. What do you think about Worldcoin? So Worldcoin is launched.
I think it's a bad idea, but I think it's people are they're laying on the hate really strong, and I don't think they really know what they're talking about. This is just another example. Everyone is a faker, everyone is a phony, and everyone wants to hate on Worldcoin. I don't think they really know anything about it. They just know it's creepy and weird, but it's not. I mean, why did they make
creepy and weird?
The eye scanner thing? It looks like a gigantic eyeball. Like what is going on? But there was a guy at Mining Disrupt who had set up shop there, and I went up and I talked to the guy. Just some poor guy trying to make a living scanning people's eyes, and I was like, "You're probably not going to get a lot of people here." The other guy at the booth, there was some guy from a pool, and that guy had scanned his eye the previous day, and he invited this guy to come in. Anyway, so apparently it scans your eye and then it takes a hash.
Yes.
And then they don't take your name or anything. So the only thing it does is if you scan again, it'll get the same hash.
Yes.
This is what they say happens. No one knows if any of this
of course.
It's probably all false. It's probably scans your eye and sends the full 7 gigabyte eye. But that's what they say, is that they don't take. So they say they have their thing they say. I think it's a terrible idea. I think partly it's basically the concept is how poor do you have to be for like $60 to really make a big difference in your life is another aspect of it. Like if you have like a white collar job, or you're like vaguely have you got your life together and you're not like a complete train wreck, then $60 is not so much. So it's kind of like sorting the world into like really poor people versus rich, and you never want to be in the poor person club if you can avoid it, of course. Which is, I think, part of why there's so much hate. Also, it's just a status thing. But I think mostly people don't really know what they're talking about, and it's the thing du jour to just hate. So it's nothing more or less than that. Don't scan your eye, and don't make a big deal about it either. It's just some stupid thing.
If you don't understand why not to scan your eyes, look up this movie, Minority Report. Fantastic movie.
See, but here's the thing. In that, they have the eye scanner like everywhere anyway. So when he's getting on the subway, scans everyone's eyes. So it's like you're screwed anyway. If they build that,
well, this is step one. That's why we got to.
But it doesn't matter. Build that machine.
That it's a bad idea.
Scanning everyone's eye, then it's not going to matter if they had the weird eyeball orb.
We got to kill the idea. We got this to just has got to crash and burn so that people understand like this is people don't want this.
We don't want eyeball scanning technology to advance too rapidly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Fuck that.
Good luck
that.
with
All right.
that.
So don't scan your eyeballs. We got meme of the week here. I thought it's pretty funny. Somebody made this meme of all the rich banker running the world type people laughing, hilarious meme, and then they said, we'll steal their money with Bankman and steal their identity with Altman. I thought that's pretty good. Like,
Altman and Bankman, I would, shady to me. They may be perfectly nice guys, but I don't know. They have that weird detached feeling,
Yeah. The psyops, the elite psyops on the individuals. And I also got to
say elite psyops, and then it's like, are these people even smart enough to pull that off?
Somebody is. Like you said, it's the 12 smart people and the 100,000 morons. It's the 12 smart people and the 6 billion morons. It's the same thing. That's
you know what Sam Altman should do? He should publish his own eye scan. That would be like, everyone should go on Twitter and ask him, hey, I really want to see what's your Worldcoin ID or whatever it's called.
Yes.
And just see like, how's that? Because if he's not doing it, then that would be, I would say, the kiss of death of that.
There was this theory that somebody said at one point about is it Tim Cook, who's the CEO of Apple, and he's like not really on stage showing off the new Apple stuff, where Steve Jobs is always, it's me, here's the iPhone right next to my head, love this shit, I'm backing it all the way. And that just symbolizes everything that's wrong with Apple, or with people who don't buy into their own product.
Well, a lot of people like Steve Jobs.
Yes.
It's a tough act to follow. I don't know if if I were Tim Cook, I don't know if I would be. I mean, what are you supposed to do? Put on like a turtleneck and like pretend to be Steve Jobs? I don't know if people would like that.
True. Steve Jobs would have been a Bitcoin casher. That's my contention.
Apple has gone downhill since the death of Steve Jobs. But again, also it has made huge amounts of money. So people still
working. Yeah.
They need the iPhone. You're a total loser if you have an Android phone.
All right. Well, let me just show you my nice quality aim. Only a very. You don't have an iPhone, do you? Do you have an iPhone?
No.
There you go. All right, brilliant. Good. glad to hear that. All right, and I got to also just shout out SlimeShadies, who are a game that was made on Avalanche. It's like a Worms shooter. I'm sure you would have played Worms. They have started testing a BCH integration. Now, this is critically important because I did try out their game, but I had some problems logging in with it because I couldn't find where the BCH part of it is. So I will report back probably on how I find it once I get in. SideShift, by the way, have improved their BCH integration. Swapping to AVAX was seamless. But the reason this is important is because they announced this integration recently. And this is the first project that I am aware of that was already an established project on another chain joining BCH, especially recently. So when we're talking about hitting a critical mass and defying the stigma and all that sort of stuff, this is an example of that. So, and I predicted on this show recently, the last couple of months, I've been saying people need to be welcoming to builders once they show up, because we're going to start getting people that are interested. And this is it. It's starting to happen with these guys. And it seems like they got onboarded by BCH Gurus, which is a homegrown BCH project, and their wave 2 of NFTs is minting now. So for both of those projects, SlimeShadies and BCH Gurus, if you're in the BCH community, go check them out. It would be good to be welcoming to builders. But on your part, Paul, so what do you think about, like, we're attracting converts, that's objective, but do you think we'll see more of that? Would you predict more or less? What's your price prediction 5-year BTC BCH? Are we going, what's the current price? We didn't say that at the start. It's $223 USD, and 1 BTC is 126.69. Are you taking the over or under on that ratio over 5 years?
Well, I don't really like, the price is kind of like, I bet on, I think the network effects thing is big. So my personal wealth is tilted into the number one coin.
Yeah.
I guess
Makes
that's
sense.
my belief.
Do you have any BCH at the moment?
I have a little, but it's not.
Oh, you do?
Really compare
Okay.
percentage wise.
All right. Yeah. No, fair enough. But there's a sliver of your mind that knows the comeback's possible then, I guess.
Yes, I think the comeback is definitely possible, and it starts with the BTC community because the community being broken is like in a way that it can't. If you shut off the pathway to correction, that is a totally different class of mistake.
Yes.
Than merely being wrong about something, because everyone's wrong about things all the time. That's not a big deal.
But you need.
But if they really have in BTC
correct.
something where it's like, we just will not fix this problem, then it's like a permanent feature of the coin.
Yes. Well, I think we're probably already past that point. And interestingly, that's what Kurt said as well, too, when you asked him. It's the same as the network effects question, really. It's like, I don't think that's ever going to happen, but if it did, maybe things would change, right? So I don't think...
What I'm thinking, though, is that more people... I think the old people are set in their ways, and in fact, I think reality is starting to defeat these people, though, believe it or not, because you can see that where the people were at the Bitcoin conference and they said, raise your hand if you own Bitcoin.
And I was
like, raise your hand if you own Ethereum. You must have seen that clip. That type of thing should go viral in the BCH community, because you're pinning a lot of your hope on stuff like that, where these people, and the person's like, really, at the Bitcoin? They can't believe that the people would own ETH.
Oh, you're all shitcoiners. Get out. Haha. But not really. But haha. Yeah.
So the people on stage, they have, it's the same people on stage every year, is it not? Yes. Including me, like whatever. First one was in 2019. A lot can happen in 4 years in tech and in, just in general.
Yeah.
And in this space, of course. So it's the same people on stage every year. They're in the cult and they know that there's rules about what you can and can't say. The people who show up, 30,000 people who paid $1,000 to show up, they're new, and they have a different point of view, I think. And I actually think that those people will eventually figure out that there's like a kind of, there's very much, there's many grifts. There's like a, I don't believe that. I'm not saying the conference is a grift. I don't believe that. I like the conference a lot.
Looks fun. I'd like to go.
There are angles where it's like, there are like get rich quick cult angles. You sell the book, you sell the steak dinner, stuff like that. Stuff like that is more overtly a grift. But it's like you have people eventually figure it out. They're new now, but there is 90%, huge numbers of people are new, and those people will just be like, it's, what it really actually reminds me of, to be completely honest with you, it reminds me bizarre. It reminds me of Jackie Robinson wrote like an autobiography or something about black baseball players, and he said that the young children like couldn't tell the difference or something. They would like applaud the same way. The parents were all weighed down by by
like racism and whatever.
Yes, the prevailing norms of the time. And so I actually think the new people will just be like, they will eventually just ignore the cult, which you partially see, I think, because we had attendance increase at the big
Now it's
Miami
decreased,
conference, but it then it fell after COVID and other weird effects kind of washed out. It was much smaller. I think it was like 30,000 in 2020, and it was about a little less than half, maybe 14,000 this year in 2023. And it also, the vibe was different also. And like, so I think because the vibe, the prevailing vibe this year was like, should ordinals be allowed or something? It was like this, like, it's like not fun, you know?
But the problem is that you're watering down. I agree with you that you're essentially watering down the cultish element over time. That's past its peak. That was 2021 at the Miami conference. That will be seen as the peak. Michael Saylor and Max Kaiser on stage screaming "fuck Elon." That will be that was the high watermark of the cult. So the cult is on the decline and things are getting watered down. But the problem is you're solving the problem with the cult in a way that is actually not that beneficial to BTC, because all those people, like all the people in ordinals, for instance, who came in and loved BTC, are they more or less likely to switch to ETH if that's the trending thing of the week, or BCH or Monero or whatever? All these people, like, you need an intolerant minority. Now, the problem is BTC, they've got a toxic intolerant minority, which is why it's hit this cult and now is like fading, but it will stay in there. And those will be the ones who are most involved in all the gears behind the scenes. So all the people who come in and are just a bit wishy-washy, they just move into alternatives, right? When the time comes.
Well, yes, but I mean, I'm not saying that I think all these people eventually join like the Drivechain group, but all I'm saying is that actually that is plausible because they will form their own big block of people who are all also sharing their own, like the 7 people who join a Bitcoin meetup at the same time.
Yeah.
They will be like their own little group now. And they're going to be talking amongst themselves like, why don't we have Drivechain or whatever? So, it's actually possible. It's also possible those people all just defect to various altcoins. Yes. But it's actually, this is partly why we come full circle, because the good thing about Drivechain is it is a soft fork of the number one coin. So in this way, it's a much more plausible thing to get politically motivated to achieve, because you say, we'll all be in the same place. It's the left side of the road, right hand side of the road. It's also in Inception. It says, where's the train going? It doesn't matter where the train's going as long as we get there together. And they get
they kill suicide. Yeah,
that's a great scene in that movie, of course, and it's a great line. And it's a great game theory line. Yeah. So the soft fork of the number one coin that's a good one for the newer people to say, this solves my problem. I want this, whatever. And of course, the miners are losing money. Miners need transaction fees to go up all the time, and they need the price to go up. And partly as a result of this great sideways from December 2017 until the present, mostly buoyed only by COVID inflation, which was, I think, certainly is more than enough to explain movement from 20 to 30,000.
Yeah.
The miners will eventually, I think, also they'll like turn to this idea or something like it or something. So the idea is just a good idea, and it's only a matter of time before it worms its way through all of the irrational opposition to it. But I could easily be mistaken about that. If so, though, if Drivechain can't make it, it kind of only means that the network effects is so strong that no good idea actually can make it. Like even from your point of view, the layer one large blockism or something will never make it.
Well, not in the BTC community.
It'll just mean that nothing will ever change. This will just be a big missed opportunity for mankind.
In BTC,
stuck the same way. We'll be stuck. Coin market cap will never change. And
of course it will change, but it will just change by people switching. No. We need to hit a critical mass. I agree with you. So I guess we've got the two kind of things, and time will play out and tell, like, whether you can get Drivechains into BTC. That's one unknown. We'll see. Maybe we'll check in again in, I don't know, a year, 3 years, 5 years, whatever.
I think you should certainly. No, I don't think. I think this will be like the last year of.
Yes.
Because the pull request will be done soon, and this Peter Todd thing, whenever he does it, which I don't know when. he'll get around to it, but he can't delay it like forever. So
forever. Yeah. Okay. All right. So there's that unknown, and then there's the unknown. Can BCH create a
yeah, I think the next 6 months
have a cool enough party?
Will be big for BCH in terms of, is BTC really like, is it actually like a complete log jam and it is actually stuck? Because like Udi with ordinal, excuse me, Taproot Wizards, ordinals, that is like, what's the next trick after that, you know?
Yeah, that was only an accident, so you don't get too many of those accidental chances.
They're setting it up as though we're making Bitcoin fun again. We're breaking the laser eye, but it's like, what's the next trick after that? Was kind of a fluke.
Yes,
they say no. They say we've got a bunch of stuff ready to go. So I said,
they'll create some hype.
Surprise.
Yeah. I'm sure they're cooking up something, but the thing is, they're still just like the delusions and all the cognitive dissonance that they have and that the other people have, and just the 1 megabyte limit. Like, you can't even just have a sensible engineering conversation with anyone, and it's all politically gridlocked, and people are busy, shoving RBF down people's throats on the dev list. John Carvalho is like in despair, and eventually he's going to just come out publicly and say like, all right, we fucked up, guys. Like, my dream of a peer-to-peer cash system died a long time ago, and I just didn't realize it, right?
Well, John Carvalho is funny because he's normally an enforcer of the cult, but now the cult has turned on him.
Exactly.
It's like that movie. It's like this happens in many movies. Whatever. Like it's the Emperor's New Groove.
Yes.
He is the Emperor, and he's kicked out.
You're outside. Then you're just one of the plebs. You're one of the outsiders. Exactly. All right. Okay.
This conversation has been very like a Jordan Peterson like mythology.
Yes.
Who would have thought?
Well, I certainly enjoy a bit of that. What do you call it? Metaphysical exploration, the narratives, the stories that people tell each other. Right. It's all very relevant. Right. We've got one slide that we give everybody who comes on this show is message to the community. So you've had your sort of throughout all this, you've said a lot of stuff. But if you had to just condense it down or break down or whatever to the Bitcoin Cash community, obviously a lot of them listen to this show. What do you think the Bitcoin Cash community needs to hear, in your own words?
Well, I hope that people take some kind of inspiration from this and not despair. That's certainly the way.
I don't think they will.
Yeah, I know. I think probably they'll take despair from this. But I think if I could sum it up, I would say it's not enough. Being right isn't enough. You also have to be popular.
Yes.
And I would say that probably the Bitcoin Cash experience is dominated by this idea of saying the risk of large block layer 1 was kind of a better risk to take than the risk that was taken, which has ended up in like custodial lightning.
Yes.
So people in Bitcoin Cash say, well, we were right. So why don't we just win everything? But it's like the QWERTY keyboard, the soft fork is what keeps you from live by the fork, die by the fork is that is the stigma that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I use the word stigma, I'm talking about that. I'm saying, people don't want the words to mean on Tuesday. What people want is for a word to mean on Tuesday what it meant on Monday. And whether or not it should mean that is some kind of other question that no one really cares about. Like many things have been named, I think
Bitcoin's had its meaning changed since the beginning, but things do change. They do drift over time.
The fund refers to the same thing that most other people are, whatever.
Yes.
You see what I mean? Like, so
yeah.
You got a room full of people and their words are trying to match some concept that isn't all their mind. That is what people want. And so, but yeah, as I also say, though, if you believe in network effects, you believe the US dollar is going to destroy everything. So no one believes in the network effect completely, but I think it's like very important.
All right. Well, I'm glad you have a tiny sliver of BCH. I'm glad we could have this chat. Time will tell, one way or the other. Does BTC get its act together? Does BCH surge up? Does something new come out of nowhere? Does ETH flip in BTC? Lots of stuff we're going to have to just wait and find out. At the end of the show, we always have to give our supporter appreciation. Thank you very much to our donators. Thank you to our patrons, Ricky and HP. Thank you to our sponsor, General Protocols. Check out bchbull.com. Paul, you'll love it. So check that out. And we also had our Flipstarter funded as well for episodes 86 to 95. So Bitcoin Jason, he's been in the chat. Check out Townsville, the Bitcoin Cash City, Shadow of Harbinger, Molecular, Emergent Reasons, Erdogan Talk, and Majamalu. Marcelo, thank you very much. Everybody can check out bitcoincashpodcast.com for the start guide, FAQs, links, and all of that. And Paul, final sign off is, where can people find more from you? And is there anybody else you want to give a shout out to?
Well, I mean, you can find TruthCoin on Twitter, and I'm the founder and CEO of Layer 2 Labs. You can go to layer2labs.com.
Yeah.
You can check out lots of great stuff there. I have drivechain.info. I have truthcoin.info, is Bitcoin blog, and I have bitcoinhivemind.com, which is my prediction markets project. So that's the stuff that I work on. And, honestly, I just give a shout out to you guys. I think what I always wanted, actually, I think competition is good, is healthy for everyone, not only the end user, but also the supplier, so to speak. And I think it was actually very unhealthy to have a kind of a monopolist guild form in BTC. It was a very bad thing. And I wished actually there was more competition. And one of the things that I didn't really like about Bitcoin Cash is that some of those things on my little bullet point list was that those made it so that it was a weaker competitor. And so, but I appreciate the fact that you guys are still out there competing. I mean that. So shout out to you.
Yeah. Excellent. Jet, any thoughts, any shout outs?
Yeah. So first off, this was a better conversation than I was expecting. I didn't look into your background at all. And I was just like, I find crypto to be pretty exhausting mentally. So I just kind of avoid it. And then I learn about a lot of the things on the show as Jeremy explains them. So I had, this impression that you were coming from kind of this toxic BTC angle, and I am incredibly impressed. I think you presented your ideas pretty well. I think your analogies weren't there for me, but I enjoyed the conversation a lot more than I expected, and thanks for that. I do have a bunch of shout outs this time. Yeah, my mom got married on Friday, so congrats to her and
congratulations.
Matt. And then I went camping immediately after and found out that on the 19th, the friends that I went camping with, their parents are renewing their vows. So Bob and April, another congratulations. Hopefully I'll be able to make it down. And all right. We'll save it for another show.
All right. Okay. And my shout. Thanks, Paul. It's been great having you on. And obviously there's a lot of unknowns left to come in the crypto market. So we'll see how things work out, but I think these conversations are what moves things forward. I agree, we've got a tough challenge making BCH the cool room at the party, but we're gonna do it, and you've showed up. So even if only temporarily, that's already causing a few people to look around. So
well, thanks for having me. I had a great
time.
The
master plan is in action. All right,
joining the master plans begins with a single step.
Yeah, just one podcast at a time, destroying the hegemony and getting BCH to global reserve currency. All right, brilliant. Thanks everyone for listening, and until next time.
So I started realizing that if you can just find strength just a little bit longer, you will have a crew of people following you along the way.
And that is another thing that no one can ever teach you. Because you're going to have to learn that on your own. You're going to have to figure out how to pull that energy out of your mind on your own. There's no book you can read that all of a sudden I have it. I've got the technique now. I know how to do it.
Yeah.
No, it's a grind that you have to start and finish on your own.